Hi there, welcome along to the second in this current series of the Compassionate Q&A for psychology applications. My name is Dr. Marianne Trent and I am a qualified clinical psychologist. I'm also the host of the Aspiring Psychologist podcast and the creator of the Aspiring Psychologist membership and the author of the Clinical Psychologist Collective, the Aspiring Psychologist Collective, and the Grief Collective. It is lovely to have you with me. Please do let me know in the comments that you can hear me okay, and let me know which application you are currently working on as well. I'm assuming it might well be the Doctorate in Clinical Psychology application, but it might not be. So let me know what would feel like a good use of your time. And that applies even if you're watching it on replay as well. So even if you're watching it on replay on any of my socials, you might well be on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, please do subscribe. Please do comment. Please do like a few of the videos whilst you're there. But yeah, please do feel free to still comment if watching on replay. I haven't yet seen any comments that you can hear me. I know there is a slight delay on here. Let me know where in the world you're watching from, because I know that we are not purely a UK-centric audience, but it's likely that you are in the UK. What have you been up to today? I was about to have a little cough then. Um, Husband's just texted me to say he's a bit chilly, but he's not in our house. If you are coming up as Facebook user, that's because you haven't yet been and given your permission, or you don't want to give your permission to StreamYard to say that you consent for me to see your name. If you want to do that, you can go to www.streamyard.com/Facebook and give permission for it to see your name. Gotta love a bit of GDPR. Emma K, I can hear you. Lovely. Taria Jade, what beautiful name. I can hear you. Thanks. Susan Quain. I never met a Quain before. Ireland Limerick. Marvelous. I was over in Galway recently, and in a couple of episodes' time, I think it's going to be, there will be a behind the scenes view of my keynote speech in Galway. So I hope you'll find that interesting if you do want to spend some time watching that one that's coming up. So thank you for confirming you can hear me okay. Have you all eaten your dinner? I have. I had a beef stroganoff with some rice and some veg. It was delicious, but clearly hasn't warmed my husband well enough, who's gone out to watch football. Let me know where you're at with your application and what would feel like a good use of your time. Has anybody got any questions for me? Do feel free to drop them in the comments if you have. I was running a session in the membership yesterday where we were looking at small snippets of real members' forms, where we think about really maximizing the word count. Not even a word count in DClinPsy, is it? It's a character count these days. Yowzers. And that can feel harsh. And so I would say some of the main general learning points from that is don't say everything twice. Be really be really selective with your words. Make sure that you've got gold going in there. Don't say, and this is me, I'm quite verbose. Let's not be overly flowery. So let's just use really good words. Let's really, show them that you can write and you are, yourself. Show them that, but don't don't waffle on, hammering around, making a point that could be made either in half the character count or that you maybe never even actually make. So make sure that you're saying what you think you're saying. And what quickly became, oh, there's an Amazon truck pulling up, but I don't think it's for me because I don't think we've ordered anything. It's one of those days where you're like, it's not me. I definitely haven't ordered anything. Yeah, make sure that you're saying what you think you're saying. It's one of those times where it can be really useful to actually read it out loud. Okay. Even if you're like, oh yeah, I know. Because even yesterday, after some of the stuff that I'd written, I hadn't read it out loud and was like, oh yeah, that doesn't sound very good. And I've run out of air as I'm speaking. And of course, when we're reading, we still need to breathe as well. And I think we often do breathe when we like having the punctuation marks. So let's make sure that we're doing that. I just got an alert flash up, which is why you might have just thought, what was she doing? She pulled a weird expression on her face because you're a psychologist and you probably have noticed that. It just flashed up for a Facebook thing saying, get ready to go live. But of course, I'm already live. So please do let me know where you're watching this from so I can see some of you are watching from LinkedIn. Um, Facebook user who says I'm close to finishing my draft. Let me know whether you're watching from my personal page or from my business page. So hopefully I am actually live in all the places. Twitter users, if you are watching on Twitter, unfortunately, Twitter does not allow me. Oh, I think it's officially X now because I searched on my phone the other day for Twitter. It did not come up, whereas it had been before. So I think the website maybe now it has changed. If you're on Twitter, I will not see your comments because you're able to watch live, but for some reason I can't see your comments. So if you are on Twitter and you've got any questions and you want me to be able to answer them for you, please do pick one of my other sites. So I don't think we currently have. Oh yeah, we have got a YouTube watcher. That's good. Please pick one of my other sites. So we should be on Facebook on my personal page, which is public tonight. So that will be Marianne Trent, or we've got Dr. Marianne Trent on Facebook. We've got the Aspiring Psychologist community. I will just check that I haven't got anyone waiting to get in there. We've got the Aspiring Psychologist membership. We've got Dr. Marianne Trent on LinkedIn, Dr. Marianne Trent on YouTube, and it still says Dr. Marianne Trent for Twitter, but I don't know if that still is happening. What with the the Musk takeover. So I'm just going to double check. What did I say I was about to double check? I was gonna I was gonna check something and I've forgotten what it was. Oh dear. I was gonna check something and it's completely slipped my mind. I picked up my phone for some reason. I don't know what it was. I was going to do something. If you can remind me, that would be great. Right, so let's have a look. We have got some questions. Chloe says, do you ever feel ready to apply? I've decided to not apply this year because I don't feel ready, but don't know if I ever will. So, Chloe, what I would say is yes, by the time I got on, I was able to kind of lift my head up and say, you know what, it's my time and I'm ready for this next step. And I guess for you, Chloe, and for anybody else watching, I would say, is this a case of imposter syndrome, or is this a case of actually appropriate self-preservation? And what I mean by that is, I don't want you and I don't want anybody to be sitting in a room of your cohort and thinking, I genuinely am out of my depth here. I genuinely feel like I haven't had enough life experience or I haven't had enough clinical experience to feel like I can thrive both in teaching situations and in placement situations, in developing those relationships with your clients and with your supervisor, and in getting the academic work done. And I think it's okay if you're like, I just don't feel ready, and that's hand on heart. But if you're saying that in a position where you did your degree, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and you've got relevant experience and you've got a degree, then I would say, why don't you book in for some sessions with a therapist to work out what that might be about? Because it might be about imposter syndroming, um, or maybe just talk that through with your supervisor. Ask if you can book in an additional session to discuss some of this. And if they are a qualified psychologist as well, they might well have a viewpoint on that too. But yeah, if you genuinely feel like I graduated, last year, the year before, and I don't feel like I've yet got into my stride where I can confidently, competently even complete the application, let alone feel like I'm comfortable talking about myself at interview, then you might be doing yourself the biggest kindness by saying, let me see how comfortably into my stride I can become by this time next year. What an exciting opportunity. So, yeah, I'll never try and talk you into doing something you don't feel is right for you. But of course, what we know is that some people, I think you need to have at least a minimum of a year of relevant experience. But some people do their degrees, first, um, and then come to this later, or vice versa. Sometimes people have lots of relevant experience and then do their degree, and so they might find that they're able to apply, quite soon after graduating. And everybody is different, and you will know what is the case for you. But it's okay if you decide I really I don't want I'm not choosing to do this right now. I see what it does to other people, and actually I want to really confidently be able to, hold my head high and know that it's my time and I'm ready for the next step. So hope that's useful, Chloe. Feel free to say some more if that would be useful. Um, I realise I probably should screen these slightly in case in case someone's saying awful things or just swearing on camera. Okay, I don't think this is a sweary one. Emma, what kind of things to include in a personal statement? I'm applying for forensic though, so a little different to declin. So, could you drop in a couple of the questions, or is the personal statement literally just like, tell us about yourself, Emma. What have you got to say? How do you see the world? Always a little bit more direction, because I have to confess I've never seen a forensic application. And if you want to send me a blank copy of it so I know what's asked, that would be really, really useful, really, really helpful. So I would imagine it's similar. I'd imagine you're reflecting on your journey, on your growth, how the experiences that you've been through, both clinically, in the populations that you work, I guess either in secure or in justice services, how you've been shaped and grown by those, how you've used supervision to help you think about doing things differently. That's what I always want to see in a personal statement. So, excuse me, I always do this after I've eaten my tea. And I still am fairly horrified when I think back to what I wrote for my undergraduate degree personal statement. I don't know why my sixth form were not helping me more, because I clearly clearly needed more help, because I remember in one part of it I was talking about my brother and being quite proud of the fact that we had a good relationship, like, and I sort of shudder when I think that that's what I sent off to university, like, I hope it wasn't. I hope the one I found was a really old one, but it was in my certificate of, my record of achievement, as we had. If any of you are slightly older like me, you might well have one of those purple books that are record of achievement, and I'm just, like, horrified. So I imagine it's similar, but, yeah, do feel free to drop in the comments what questions are actually asked in that, because 'cause I'm not aware of that. But thank you for tuning in, and I hope you'll still find something useful in here. Um Facebook user, I am close to finishing my draft for the doctorate in clinical psychology. Do you recommend having a closing statement in the reflection? So, um, I would also always personally try and answer in full sentences. So if it's asking you a question, make sure that you're sort of concluding is what I would say at the end, so that I know, so they know you're finished, because when it gets printed out, it doesn't always look as pretty. Sometimes it just comes through in a big long thing, and it's not like neatly sectioned. And make sure it's clear that, for me, make sure it's clear that you're kind of ending. So perhaps talking about, I don't know, when I get on training, or you know, I don't know. In answer to your question, yes, I would work on making something final. Draw a line under it and full stop, so that it's done. That's what I would say. Thank you very much for your question. Olivia. Hi, Marianne. Hi, Olivia. I just started a new job this week and I'm submitting my second DClinPsy application. I love that you've used the appropriate capitalisation, Olivia. I think we get on very well this November. How much do you think would be appropriate to talk about this new role in the statement? So, what I would never want to see is in your personal statement just a breakdown of your roles. If I want to see your roles, I can see that in the job section. So I would never want to see you just talking through your different roles. I would want to see something more holistic, I would say, and reflective. Um, so you've just started a new job this week. Where are we? October. Um, by the time you submit it, you'll be 6 weeks in. You will have learned so much in those 6 weeks, even about starting in in new teams. And that, let's hope, Olivia, the next time you start in a new team will be this time next year when you're on placement 1. But then soon after that you'll have placement 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So what you're learning now is really, really relevant, and you ought to be learning. I know I am learning as I speak in the next episode that's coming up of the podcast on Monday, which I was just proof editing today. I speak about learning so much, even in supervision, both for my own personal and professional development, but also to help advance the clinical work I'm doing with my clients. So I know starting jobs can be a bit slower, but these are really great opportunities to be able to shadow people in your team, to be able to ask loads of questions, to have a little bit more time in your diary, to be really interested, really focused, to be able to have time to do literature searches and to think about gaps in the evidence base. This is a real time of growth and explosion for you. It's likely, if you are anything like me, Olivia, with the correct capitalization of DClinPsy, that your sleep has gone wild. Whenever I start a new job, my brain is just like, just going through all of these, neural connections and pathways and people's names, and sparking off ideas for, things that I'm going to do and things that went well and things I'm excited about. So this is a great time for you to really reflect on all of that stuff, to think about what you're aiming to get from this role, what would feel, I think we do get to a place in our roles when we feel like maybe I've perhaps grown as much as I can in this current role. And that's not always a comfortable realization, especially if you love the job. But what seems to happen in training, certainly from my experience, is you just get to the point where you feel like you're beginning to be a competent professional in that role, and then it's time to finish. So even by the time hopefully you're called to interview, you'll have been in that job role for, depending on which course you're applying to, 6, 7, 8 months. So you will be comfortably into your stride by then. And I think it's okay to think about what you're perhaps looking forward to doing in this role, you know? So I would probably write out a Word document that might well include things that you're never going to have space to include and don't want to include. But I would use that to think about what you're hoping to do in this role. I don't know what your role is. I don't know what your requirements are within that role, but it's always useful thinking about, well, what will happen in my next appraisal? What would I think about as putting there on my goals? Might it be to do some group work? Might it be to take an active role in assessments? Might it be to work on, doing some sort of small scale project on your service, some audit, all great stuff that potentially can go onto your form and maybe even be put in your dissemination section. So this is a really good chance to really think about you and your development and the things that you're hoping to gain and to learn. And, congratulations on your new job. This is really exciting, especially if it's a really relevant role. So well done to you. Let me know how you celebrated as well. Um, just having a quick screen to check to check there's no swearing. I feel like watching Davina McCall on Channel 4 when she used to run do Big Brother. You're live on Channel 4, please do not swear. I have to apologise because my ring light that I've been using for 2 years, I've only had it 2 years, has broken. I'm gutted. I'm gutted. I expect a ring light to last longer than 2 years, so boo-hoo. It means that I can't be streaming on Instagram either, which is a shame. So, Iram, thank you for watching. I'm struggling to pick my uni choices. Some of them include a written or test in general, which scares me and makes me not want to apply for that reason only. Any advice on what these kinds of pre-interview tests include? So for that, I would say, Iram, it really does differ depending on um, the university that you're applying to. So some of them do logical reasoning tests, some of them do deductive reasoning tests, some of them do situational judgment tests, some of them do research tests. So it's really different depending on who you're applying to. And I believe you should be able to find out what sort of test it is that's involved. Um, in the membership last year, we tried to do some of the logical reasoning, but even someone that was an expert in it still confused us. We didn't know what was going on. So yeah, it's okay to be a bit nervous, but if you're lacking in confidence with talking or thinking about research, for example, if it's a research thing, then it's a chance to think about how you can strengthen your Achilles heel between now and when the assessment time will be. And the assessment times typically are around late January, early February, or even sort of mid-February time, because the interviews start from March. So what can you do between now and, January, February time to strengthen any of your Achilles heels, I would say? And it might well be that you include thinking about, a little bit a spell in the Aspiring Psychologist membership, because we do research really rather well, and we do being able to draw on kind of CBT stuff really well, and to formulate and to reflect and to do all those good things. So yeah, it's okay to be scared about things you've not done before. It's okay to be scared and intimidated about things that matter a great deal to you. Of course it is. But it's also okay to embrace things that might feel challenging, and to know that if you find it difficult, other people might find it difficult too, and that often these things are kind of scored on a spectrum. And so even if you feel like you haven't done particularly well, others may feel the same way, and you may actually do better than you think. So if all of the excuse me, if all of the universities that you're considering and are geographically pleasing to you use selection tests, but you don't want to apply to any of them, you're potentially shooting yourself in the foot. But if they all have the same type of selection test, and you hand on heart know that's probably not for you, like if they were all logical reasoning, I I probably wouldn't do very well. And so would I really choose to sabotage my own chances by applying for 4 courses that all use the same type of measure? No, I probably wouldn't. But I was in the position when I was applying that I was single. I think I'm right in saying I was single when I applied, and I was single. Yeah, I was definitely single when I got on. I think I was single when I applied as well. And so I was able to pick the courses which interested me, knowing that I would move to wherever I got on. But I know that not everybody is in that position. So hope that is useful, Iram. Taria Jade. I'm not at the doctorate part yet. I've recently graduated from psych counselling, but really want to do the PWP trainee course and work my way up. If not, then do a master's and complete that route. Do you have any tips for application for the PWP course, please? I have to say, I've never seen an application for the PWP course either. But if you do have any examples of the questions that are being offered on that, do drop them in. I'll have a look. But yeah, it's lovely to have you on this live at an earlier stage of your career. But yeah, I've never seen an application. So feel free to drop in a question and I can help think about how I would talk around that. Oliver Smith. Hello, Oliver Smith. Any general tips for first time applicants would be great. I'm not too sure where to get started. I'm watching from LinkedIn. Hello, Oliver. Thank you for watching. Oh, there you go for the decline side. Thank you. Um, so, please don't be put off by the fact that it is a first application because, you know, we, in theory, I got on third time, but in theory, that could have been my first time, you know? So, had I just decided to apply 2 years later than I actually did, that would have been my first time too. And that was the time that I was ready. So, I guess what I'm saying is this, even though it's your first time, this still could be, the time that is right for you, and people do get on, excuse me, people do get on first time, and that could well be you, because if you're ready, or sometimes if you're just really jammy, you're just good at interviews, good at applications, then you get on first time, and hopefully you do feel like you're able to be there, and but you may well have waited, Oliver. You may well be like the lovely Chloe, who chose before not to apply because you didn't feel ready, but now you do, in which case this would be your first time. So be yourself, be interesting, make sure that your form could only be written by you. I don't want loads of buzzwords. I want this to be, authentically Oliver, the way that you see the world, what interests you about psychology, what ignites and appeals to you. That's what I would say. Oh, thank you, Emma. Yes, I was going to check if I had any users wanting to come in. Well, how embarrassing is that? Yes, I did do that. No, I let some in yesterday and there hasn't been any new requests today. So thank you for that, Emma. Oh, glad you're all listening. Oh, it's so lovely when we've got a supportive community. So Emma K, Taria Jade, Alan Erskine. I can help with this if you want to message me. Brilliant. All right, Olivia, just checking you're not swearing. I don't think you are. Any tips for being smart with the description of role part for work experience section? I think it's maximum 30 words. It's not much, is it? And I feel like I can barely list the brief responsibilities or acronyms without running out of space or expanding to say more about certain assessments or projects I did. I don't have space to touch on anywhere else in reflection questions. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. So I would say don't feel the need to write in full sentences in that section because you are you are going to very quickly run out of time. And if you work in a service that has an incredibly long name, you may and that's taking you above. I don't know, is the title, I can't remember because I don't tend to fill when I because I fill in my own version of the form each year, but I actually don't fill in that bit because I think, well, that's just experience. So is the title of the service part of the name of part of the word count, or is it just a description? I think it's just a description you mean. So hopefully the name of the service is not going to impact on you, but let me know if I've remembered that wrong. Yeah, I would literally try to use as succinct, I'd probably put either facilitating or co-facilitating assessments, or maybe even if I was really short of space. I think you probably need to say initial assessments, because in psychology we know what that is, whereas if you just say assessments, that kind of leaves it open to, I don't know, whether it's a carer's assessment, whether that's a neuropsych assessment. But yeah, I think you need to either say facilitating or co-facilitating or shadowing, or what your role is there. But see if you can just do I don't know, like 15 pairs of words, almost. Like you can do a few less things that you do. So, for example, if I was writing about my AP role, that might have said behavioral recordings, um, care planning. I probably would put CPA. I'd be a bit naughty and probably put CPA. If I had space, I'd put care planning, approach, reports, writing. It is hard, isn't it? Um, what else would I say? Yeah, I'd just try and keep it not wordy. This is not the space to be verbose. Um, you know, leaflet leaflet creation. I don't know. Yeah, just don't worry about writing full sentences. And it's very tricky, for example, if you were having to write that you were doing dialectical behavioral therapy or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, because before you know it, you've used all your words. So I think in those cases it is okay to use acronyms. um, if you really don't have the room and it's just silly long. But of course what we know is that the person screening that form may not know the acronym, so I think CBT is fairly standalone. If you really, really can't fit in cognitive behavioral therapy, I think it's acceptable to use that. But I know that in services, for example, in services with for people with intellectual disabilities and personality disorders, there might well be acronyms that mean different things to different services. So if there's any chance that that acronym isn't going to be understood, I think it's good practice to say what that is. Even if you say it in an earlier part of the form and then put it in brackets and then use it in that really short bit. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not probably not the answer you wanted, but don't be afraid to just be really not very chatty in that section, just to use your words. Yeah, and not be too worried about reflecting on it or any of that jazz. Um, oh, literally a very blank personal statement, which makes it so much harder. So, who is Emma Kay? What does she want? What does she want from training? Um, how is she hoping to change the face of forensic psychology? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? Who inspires you? And this might not all make it onto your permanent thing, but I think it's interesting. My hair is really tickling my ear today. I think it's really interesting reflections to have. Um, so yeah, nice opportunity, but trickier. I presume it's still got a word count to it. Do you know anybody who has had a successful application? Have you ever seen a successful application? Because that can be useful. Um, Chloe, thank you so much. That's really helpful. I graduated in 2020 and have 3 years experience in NHS, including 1 year as an AP. I think maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome, so I'll chat this through with my supervisor. You're so welcome. And yeah, I didn't get on to training until I had about 2.5 years AP work, but we are all different. I also went traveling. So by the time I graduated in the summer of 2002, and I started training in September 2008. But there'd been a period of working for, doing temp work and doing care work, and then traveling for 6 months. So I clearly wasn't pedal to the metal the whole time. And then I came back and worked in a non-related job for a bit as well. So I think the first relevant job that I had, so I graduated summer of 2002. My first really relevant job, was 2004, at which point I did that for 2.5 years and then got an AP job. So um, my AP job was 2006. So, if I'd sped up the process or had less fun and sat in less hammocks and had less cocktails and danced in less, you know, Thai bars, then the process would have been sped up. But I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I wouldn't have had nearly as much fun. So I could have done it quicker, but I wouldn't have had nearly as much fun. So whether you can think about actually using this year to have more fun as well, to not just, exhaust yourself along the journey because it's so important. This should be an enjoyable life. It shouldn't just be about, um, you know, I want to get there. I want to get there. I want to get there because what I don't want for you, lovely Chloe, or anybody else, is to wake up on the decline side, to wake up after a couple of months and just go, oh, but I'm still me. Oh yes, oh yes, you are. Oh yes, you are. Because all this running and all this energy, has distracted you from the fact that it is still you that has to get up and go and be that trainee clinical psychologist, and we need to be happy with the person we are as well. And so, yeah, making sure there's time for enjoyment is so important. Oh, that's a lovely message. Sia Bulela. What a lovely name. I probably haven't said that at all right, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful how I've said it. I'm sure it's even more beautiful how it's actually said. Chloe Cossey, you've got this. You've come this far for a reason. You're doing a great job. Nice. Oh, that's lovely. Um, Olivia, I'm just screening to check there's no swearing. I'm sure it isn't. My previous message isn't showing for me, so I'm resending. Oh, it did show for us. Yes, we did see that. So I I think it's a bit more. Last year, I ended up listing acronyms and having to cut out most of what I did on a daily basis in those previous roles, and wasn't able to expand on what I actually did and how I contributed to the team, etc. I think it probably doesn't matter. So, if you're an assistant psychologist and you're supervised by a clinical psychologist, for example, and you've worked in that role for a year and a half, you're getting like loads of relevant bonus points for that, if that makes sense. Because I think from my experience of when I've seen scoring criteria, there will be time based, but also how relevant your role is. So it probably doesn't matter too much, really, what you say there. It's knowing that what you're doing is relevant to the profession of psychology. So I'd say don't beat yourself up too heavily about this section, Olivia. Um, just do what you can and know that you're in exactly the same position as everybody else in this application cycle, because everybody else is also limited to the same maximum 30 words. So I think it's really, I think in that I literally haven't looked at that section for a few years, because I don't fill that bit in. But do you say who you report to in that section? So do you say that you report to a clinical psychologist, for example, or is it up to you to put that in your form, in your description, supervised by clinical psychologist? I can't remember. Fill me in on that bit. That would be helpful. Everyone's in the same position. It's not ideal, but you can only do what you can do, is what I would say. Sort of peeking above the wall of that comment. Olivia, thank you so much, Marianne. That's really helpful advice. You're so welcome. Um, Here we go. Grace Hill. How much would you recommend completing the work experience CV section, please? For example, for an AP job, they are all different. How much detail do you recommend giving? The word count? Yeah. So I've heard different things about listing being more descriptive on less things such as shadowing professionals. Yeah. So I would try to cover the main points that are gonna really encapsulate the things that are, if you're in I guess if you spend 50% of your time in meetings taking notes, that's not that exciting. That's not gonna score you many points, as a glorified secretary. However, if you are delivering, if you're what was I doing as an assistant? If you are doing neuropsych yourself and then using supervision to interpret and score that, that's obviously a much nicer, more appealing thing to reflect on. So in those examples, I would probably put administering neuropsych assessments, um, writing care planning or yeah, writing progress reports. So how many words have I got? Administering neuropsych assessments. I might even be able to fit neuropsychological in there if it's not character based, it's word based. So writing neuropsych assessments. Um, no, sorry, administering neuropsych assessments, writing care progress reports. Um, this is real time, like crickets in my head, cogs whirring. Co-facilitating. Excuse me. I think I was on this one. Co-facilitating initial assessments. So yeah, basically, I'm still only on 11 words, but I've already gone through 3 or 4 different things. So I think it's definitely possible, so long as you aren't expecting yourself to talk about every single thing you've ever done. You're really trying to showcase the most relevant stuff that you've done and that you are doing. Um, and know that if they want to know more, they can find that out by inviting you to interview. How fantastic it's going to be for you to talk about that in person. Don't put that. I shall be looking forward to discussing my suitability with you at interview. Don't put that. Brenda. Is it worth talking about additional certificates under other relevant experience? For example, suicide prevention training and mental health first aid training. I would say yes. I would say, yeah, it can't hurt. If you don't put it on, it can't get any scores or points, and they might think, oh, has she done no other training? So I think if you've got the space and you're not missing off some other, you know, qualification to put it there, I would say it's absolutely fine. Yeah, because I learned so much from. I think it was even a 2 or 3 day course training in an approach called TRIM, so trauma risk informed management. And I still use some of the stuff I learned in there, despite it only being, I think it might have been 3 days. And so, yeah, I would say it's really relevant putting that in if you've got the space. Syllabulaela. It's not okay to be scared. If you plan, you won't be scared, you'll be curious. Well, sometimes people do get scared, so let's not be um yeah, sometimes even my children will say I'm scared, and I can't invalidate them by saying, of course you're not scared. If someone is scared, they're scared. But it's thinking about, yeah, where you might be able to see an opportunity to expand, and knowing sometimes that excitement and fear might feel similar. um Now the sun's setting. I'm getting a shadow across my face, aren't I? Knowing that they might feel similar, and that it's okay to feel nervous about the things you've never done before. Hello, Nikita, late to the party today. Feels familiar to be loitering here. Good luck to all 2024 applicants. I've added in an extra word there. She didn't say all, but I know she means it. So Nikita was on my podcast very recently, and Nikita did have the title of how to get onto the DClinPsy in record time. So if you wanted to check that out, have a look on my YouTube. My YouTube. How uncool do I sound as I say my YouTube? Yeah, Dr. Marianne Trent, and then have a look in the playlist for podcast, and you'll see the lovely Nikita's episode there, because she is in week 2 of her doctorate in clinical psychology. Well done to you, Nikita. And Nikita and I are working with another colleague on a very exciting project coming soon. So um, that's exciting. Taria, okay, thank you. You're welcome. Oliver, thank you, Marianne. Very helpful. Do you think it may be difficult for a PWP to get on and understand the DClinPsy? So sorry, that's really stuck in my throat, that little tickle. Compared to roles such as an AP. So, Oliver, if you are in England rather than Scotland or Wales, you will have to wait for a good couple of years until the last of your Health Education England funding has been and gone before you're then eligible to apply. So that was something that was originally going to be brought in 2020, but under appeal, largely put forward by Erkan, who was an aspiring psychologist at the time, but is now a almost qualified. I think he's in year 2. Yes, year 2 is in. It was delayed. It was rolled back to last year, I think. So 2020, 21, 22. I think, yeah. So this might be the first year that it's that the PWP HEE rule is actually in place. So 2023, I think. Might have been last year. I think last year was the first year. Because they wanted to do it in 2021 and they said, well, we'll roll it forward by 2 years. So I think 2022 was the first year. So I assume you mean perhaps that you've been a PWP and you aren't affected by this HEE thing, that you're qualified and hopefully you're clear of the HEE funding. I hope I'm making myself clear. No, in answer, I think there are, PWP is quite a commonly accepted route into DClinPsy. Where it can, of course, be useful is to try to get as much time, care, and attention with a qualified psychologist as possible, because that's always going to be the most relevant of experiences. And it doesn't always need to be a qualified clinical psychologist, qualified counselling psychologist or forensic psychologist would be useful. Just someone with a professional psychology qualification. Olivia, you're welcome. Grace Hill, I've put my question in the comments. I don't know if that's right. Yep. Did I see? I did answer your question, I think. I hope that you saw that bit, Grace. Brenda, you're welcome. Grace Hill, for the research and dissemination section, how does this differ from reflecting on your research experience in the first question? So I would tend to use the research and dissemination section almost as a bullet point to kind of use reference style, anything that I've written or done or disseminated that's at all good. So that would be anything I've had published. It would be, I don't know, any conference reports that I've done. It would be any posters, presentations that I've done at conferences, that sort of thing. So it would literally be, lots of references of stuff I've done. That's what I would do for that. Eleni, it's a nice name. Eleni Maria, actually. Hello. Should references in the dissemination section be anonymised? I'm mindful that I reach maximum characters and writing literally applicant's surname and applicant's name initial instead of my name is not possible. I hope this makes sense. It does. So your name will always be redacted. So when I write that section, I tend to just put myself down as like first author or second author and not worry too much about the other names, because yours will be redacted and it also means that you're not that anonymous. So yeah, for the word count issue as well, if you feel comfortable too, I would just put myself down as first author, second author, third author, and then take out all the names, but then write the rest of it as if it's a publication, if that makes sense. So I'd write the title, what it was disseminated in, so whether it was a conference report, whether it was a journal article, as a reference, APA style reference. But rather than all the names, I would tend to put first year, first author, second author, brackets year, like you would with APA, but I just miss out all the names. So I think because it will be redacted. Okay, that's all the questions I've had so far. Has that been useful? It's been a slightly quieter session than it usually is, so I do hope that I am streaming across everywhere. If you've got any questions on replay, do let me know. Yes, so if you were the third or fourth author, for example, do you say your role in that paper? So I would literally put third author, brackets 2023, and then whatever the title of the thing is, like the compassionate Q&A live, DClinPsy session, for example, if I was talking about this, um, the YouTube. That's what I would put. That's what I would put. And you might think, oh, I was only fourth author. I don't really want to draw attention to that. But even if you put, so for example, one of the papers that I had was Stubbs, Cooper Evans, Durran, Montenegro. Do you know which one I am? Which one am I? Which one am I of those? Am I Stubbs? Am I Cooper Evans? Am I Durran? Am I Montenegro? Which one do you think I was? Do let me know. I feel like I don't want to give away the answer now. Who was I? Who was I? Does anyone know what my maiden name was? You're very useful. You're welcome, Oliver. I will come back to that little conundrum. Iram, if you have a few years of experience, how do you pick the best topics to talk about, and how many would you recommend? Which do you think are the best? That's what I would reflect on in your, in your journal. Which do you think is best? Which do you think most showcases your unique skills and talents and the experiences that you have been able to gain as part of being in that role? So we can't cover everything, but generally speaking, which do you think are going to be the most relevant to you in your career as an incoming trainee clinical psychologist? What do you feel some of the most common mistakes people make? I've got a real tickle. I'm so sorry. I'm really loud to you as I cough down this microphone. I've been talking all day. I think that's what it is. Had 4 clients today. I also had an interview about potentially getting involved with something for the radio, which is quite exciting. And I've spoken to my children too as well, and my husband. What do you feel are some of the common mistakes people make when responding to the work and or research experience question of the application? Being too listy and not at all reflective is what I would say the commonest mistake is. Nobody has had a guess at what my maiden name was. So the options were Stubbs. You're not Googling it, you're not cheating, are you? Stubbs, Cooper Evans, Durran, Montenegro. Well, I'll put you out your misery. So it was in answer to this question. So I think at that stage, I didn't know that it was redacted, so I put my name in, and then of course they're going to see which position you're at anyway. So if you're like, I don't want to draw attention to the fact that I was third author, which is what I was because my maiden name was Durran, they're going to see that anyway because they're going to see which is redacted and they can count. So they would see Stubbs, Cooper Evans, redacted name, Montenegro. So they're going to be able to count that you were the third author, for example. So you may as well just put that. I would just put third author and then the title of what I was doing. So, Olivia, following up from Elaine's question, would you use that same formatting for the dissemination session for in-service presentations? Yes, I would. Yes, so I would. So I would put myself down as first author. I would put the title of what the presentation was. I would say who I was presenting it to, and I would, see if you can make it can you get yourself to do that same presentation at something bigger? So, can you do it at a service presentation? Can you approach the trust to ask whether you can do that? And an induction, can you approach the trust to see whether you can do that at a more, um, I don't know, some sort of trust-wide event so that it's a bigger thing? Can you pitch that presentation to a conference that you're going on? Can you think outside the box and try and get yourself along to a conference and take a poster along with something that you've done? I don't know, like, 'cause if you even if you're taking a poster that you've done previously, for example, for your undergrad or your master's, but you take the poster to a conference as a booked in thing, you can't just, like, slap it up on the wall and say, "I did it. I was at a conference." You've got to book that in and actually be there. Can you get your poster presentation at a conference? You might already have done that. You might already have done that, but um, how can you use this time to get more relevant disseminations, is what I would say. We're just coming to the end of our session. We've got 4 minutes left. So please do, let me know if you've got any more pressing questions. Sumaya, would you say research experience is necessary as well as clinical experience? Yes, it is going to be relevant. It is one of the key areas. I'm assuming you mean for clinical psychology. It is one of the key areas that we think we're pretty good at. And it's okay if that's one of your weaknesses, if you feel like is one of your Achilles heels. There is still time to kind of think about padding that out. Um, yeah, sometimes you might be like, oh, I really haven't done anything since I did my undergraduate degree. At which point, if they were giving you feedback on your form, which you don't always get, they might well tick the bit that said academic qualifications and experience need strengthening, which is basically saying get yourself either a master's or get yourself writing some research and getting that published, or get yourself doing some more stuff. Even going along to your trust research meetings is going to be really good for you if they run them, because it's going to get you thinking about research. It's going to get you thinking about the critical thinking that people will have when talking about research. And it's just going to be really, really relevant for you. And it might also get you involved with helping with research, which then becomes something you can put on your form. So I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I hope you found today's session useful. Even if watching on replay, as I said, if you are watching on replay, please do, still comment, still like, still engage. Consider sharing this to your network, would be marvelous. If you are on YouTube, please do subscribe. Please do watch some of my other content as well. I recently had another idea for something I might start doing on YouTube. I will let you have more information about that if if it comes to fruition. And if you do think that some more tailored advice and support would be useful, or you'd like to watch any of our replay sessions from the membership, please do consider joining the Aspiring Psychologist membership. And do remember that we have got the Clinical Psychologist book and the Aspiring Psychologist Collective books, which people speak very highly of for helping them think about their own journey, their own experiences, and for really thinking about developing their skills in reflection as well. So thank you so very much. You're so welcome, Grace, and everybody else. Thank you so much for sharing your Tuesday evening with me. If you would like to spend your Monday evenings with me, we run a session every Monday evening, apart from bank holidays, which is when we do the Tuesdays. So 4 Mondays a month, we have Marianne Mondays, where we've got something happening in the membership. So last night was DClinPsy snippets forms for DClinPsy, and next Monday, we have CBT skills and formulation. We've also got CAT formulation coming up for aspiring psychologists, where actually an aspiring psychologist gets formulated from a CAT perspective, because CAT can be quite tricky to hold in mind. And so the idea is, if we've kind of formulated ourselves, then we may understand a bit more, and it might stick in our minds a bit about what a cat formulation is. And I think we've also got, I think it's next month in November, we've got research coming up, but there's another session coming up that working with addiction. I think we've got working with addiction coming up as well. So really relevant stuff that people find really useful. And it's also a user-led thing. So if you recognize that there's a session that you would really like, then you can suggest that, and I will try and book the relevant experience. And I pay my experts to present as well, because I believe you should be getting the best exposure to people. And so I pay my experts for that reason. So yeah, do check out the Aspiring Psychologist membership and the collective books and the podcast. And you can do that by checking any of the links in my socials. Thank you so much for your time. Please let me know if you've got any questions. If you've got any ideas for future podcast episodes, please let me know. And I will just let you know when the third and final compassionate Q&A is of this season. I believe it is a Tuesday because of the Marianne Mondays that happen. We have got the next one happening on, where are we? On the 7th of November. So Tuesday, the 7th of November at 6 p.m. So that's still a few weeks before the applications are due in, which I believe is the 22nd. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll look forward to catching up with you all very soon. Be kind to yourselves. Good luck with your applications. Bye.